Now it's time for us to focus our attention on the glass and the water of the vase. So let's go ahead and start with that. So open the material editor, and in here we already created a base glass in our first module. So we're just going to make a few changes on this base glass in order for us to have the vase material. So I'll select it, hold shift, click and drag. Rename this. And one thing we're going to change here is the glossiness of the refraction. We don't want it to refract it as perfect as it is now. So I'm going to change this to something like 07. So we have a more blurry result for the glass. And I'll select the vase. So open this group, grab the vase, and apply this material to it. Now let's just do a quick test render of this to see how it looks. Okay, so 07 might be a little too low, so let's increase this back to something like 0.85 and do another quick test render to see how it looks. Looking better, but still a little too blurry, so switch this back to something like 09, 095. Let's see how that looks. And final test render. So the glossiness is where I want it to be, but I feel like this glass could look like it's a little thicker. If we want the glass to look like it's thicker, all we have to do is increase the IOR. So I'll put something like 2.2. And let's give it a quick test render to see how it looks. Okay, looks perfect. Now, we have our base glass that we created in the previous module, and this base glass can actually be used in a lot of objects in our scene. If you notice, all of our paintings have a geometry in the front, which is for a glass material. So if we open this group here and we grab the first object in the front, it is a frame made of glass. So I'm going to apply this base glass to it, and I'm going to repeat this process to all the other paintings on the other side of the room. Just select these, open the groups, and grab the first object and apply the base glass material to it. So we're done with the glasses, and now we're ready to focus our attention on the water. So let's go ahead and go back to the vase. And I'll grab the water geometry, and we're going to open the material editor and create yet another V-Ray material. Rename this. And in here, the settings are pretty simple. I'm going to increase the reflectivity to 100%. And I'm going to increase the refraction to 100%. Now, this will make for a clear water. And I don't want it to be a clear water. I want it to have a kind of dirtyish look to it. So we're going to add a fog color, and we're going to adjust the fog so it looks the way we want. So I'm going to select something like a yellowish, greenish sort of color. Something like that, kind of muddy color. And we're going to apply this material to it. Zoom out a bit and test render. Okay, so this doesn't look at all with what we want to accomplish with this material, and this indicates that we have a normal problem to solve. You see how it reflects way too much like a mirror? That's an indicator that this is a normal problem in the surface of the geometry, not a material problem. So I'm going to select it and open the Modify panel. And we're just going to add a normal modifier to this. I'll apply the normal modifier and I'll click on Unify Normals. Once I do that, let's test render again and see how it looks now. Okay, so now it looks a bit more realistic because it's the same color throughout the whole object and we don't see any mirror-like places. So now let's just adjust this. I'm going to decrease this fog multiplier quite a bit. Let's try something like 0.3 and test render again. Okay, still a little too strong, so let's lower this quite a bit more, just something like 0.1. And I'm going to lighten this color a bit because I think it's way too dark. Something like this, and test render again. Getting closer to what we want, but it's still too strong. So let's lower this even more, something like 0.5 or maybe even 0.3. And still tweak the colors just a little bit more and give it another test render. There you go. Now it looks perfect. So this concludes the water and the glass for this module. In our next clip, we're going to focus our attention on the walls and the painting. So I'll see you guys then.